Anyway, assisting me in the opining, old friends to the show, my regulars for this part of the day and this part of the week, Amy Ridenauer, president of the National Center for Public Policy Research and author of the highly acclaimed book entitled Shattered Lives. This analyzes the 100 worst examples of government-managed care casualties. You want a copy? Not a problem. You can get that free copy by going to the website at visitnationalcenter.org. Again, www.visitnationalcenter.org. Amy Ridenauer, good to have you back. How are you today, kiddo?
I'm great, Alan. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. And we got Bob as well. Amy, listen, I've been meaning to ask you. Bob, I'm just kidding. Bob Weiner joins us as well, Democratic strategist, columnist, former communications director for Clinton Drug Czar General Barry McCaffrey, and former chief of staff of the House Committee on Aging. Bob, good to have you back as well.
It's a pleasure. And, Alan, if you want to pick a fight about losing jobs under Bush, losing 600,000 a month as he left office and into Obama's first 2 months, you can't blame that on Obama. Obama reversed the bubble of Bush losing jobs, and CBO says Obama created 1.5 million to 3 million jobs with the stimulus. So, yeah, let's have that debate. That's a fun one. And Reid said that 8 million jobs were lost during Bush's years. That is also a fact. Let's
Amy
have the debate.
Ridenauer,
game on.
Amy Ridenauer, when someone points to a piano and coals at a fishbowl, we have to acknowledge that we have no control over their power of delusion. Wasserman Schultz is on record as saying, you just heard her tell Gretchen Carlson of Fox News, quote, you just said the unemployment rate is going up since Obama took office, and it has not, unquote. Now, if we look at every single word she said, we know that the opposite is true, and that's all verifiable. We've been between 9 to 10% unemployment since '09. So Wasserman Schultz doesn't need to just convince me or Gretchen Carlson. She has to convince the entire country that she's not out of her ever-loving mind. Do you see her having much success in that endeavor, Amy Ridenauer?
Well, people want jobs. To be honest, I don't think they're particularly concerned about what Debbie Wasserman Schultz says one way or another, or the head of the Republican National Committee for that matter.
They are concerned if they see these leaders as being... Wait, no. They are concerned if they see the leaders who have to help try to make it easier for companies to create jobs, demonstrating how disconnected they are from the jobless rate that actually exists. If you have leaders who insist that under Obama, employment's been getting better and not worse, well, that's more than cause for pause for any reasonable observer. Isn't that fair to point out, Amy Ridenauer?
I think it's totally fair. These people should know, anybody in Congress should know, anybody who's sitting at a news desk, whether it's Fox or MSNBC, they should know all of this stuff. All that said, we're debating little tiny points in a ghastly economic situation. People need to feel that they can get a job if they lose theirs, or they can get one if they don't have one. And people don't feel that way right now. New graduates don't get jobs even if they studied something that's actually useful. I mean, it's a disastrous situation. And when we speak about re-election, and I'm not taking stance in election, that's not what I do. But any incumbent, Republican or Democrat, facing an economic and jobless situation like this is in trouble. And it doesn't matter what their spokesmen say. It's jobs that matter.
Well,
Bob Weiner, not even you can argue with the fact that since Obama's taken over, we have not had an increase in employment. And yet that is what Debbie Wasserman Schultz is saying. And even if certain jobs were created, the reality is net jobs were lost. It doesn't matter how many you create if what you lose is a greater number, Bob Weiner.
We have had 21 straight months of increases in private sector jobs, unlike George Bush, who kept losing jobs. And I want to
you can't make that claim.
And I want
Bob,
to make a
you can't make that claim. You can't measure it, so you can't make it.
Who can't make
assertion
that
premise? Assertion premise.
You can't. I can't. But guess
the
what?
number itself. If you don't have listen to my words. You do not have a net sum gain of jobs. If when your guy took over, we were in the upper sevens, and now we're in the lower nines,
However,
or more recently the 8.6.
For the first 2 months of
you agreed. Amy, did you hear that Bob agreed with me?
You're going to blame him for Bush.
Amy, did you hear that Bob agreed with me? So in other words, regardless of what jobs they contend that this administration has created, they understand, as Bob has just borne witness to today, in the year of our Lord, December 12th, 2011, that in fact we've had more jobs lost than we've had jobs gained under the tenure of Barack Obama.
Bush's policies in the beginning of Obama.
Okay.
That's the reason. No other reason. And the American people understand that despite
But you just acknowledged that the chair of the DNC lied out of her ass. You just acknowledged that the chair of the DNC lied out of her ass.
No,
because when she said, Gretchen, you just said the unemployment rate is going up since Obama took office, and it has not. And all the labor statistics have shown the opposite.
Factual way, as opposed to Debbie Wasserman Schultz's saying you cannot say point blank there are more jobs now than when Obama took over. You can say and must say that the spillover of Bush's policies in the first couple of Obama months were deadly costly, and Obama has been picking up the mess. That you can say.
Right now, Amy Ridenhour, congressional leaders are poised. Why, you ask? Well, they're poised for an agreement. Apparently, the government looks as if it's going to be able to keep itself running till September of next year. I mean, it's not a done deal yet, but it does look like a compromise is in place. However, a compromise over whether or not we should extend the payroll tax cut seems mired in bad faith arguments. You got the Democrats characterizing disagreement with their formula for the extension as if it's a disagreement with the extension itself. You know, Dems want to pay for it by taxing millionaires, while the GOP want to pay for it by freezing government pay, cut government workforce by 10%, et cetera, et cetera. How do you see this battle working out? Are the Republicans going to be able to more effectively make the case, hey, a lot of us are for extending it, but we'd rather pay for it by removing dollars from otherwise wasteful programs before coming to you, the taxpayer, for more money? I tell you what, Amy, upon a return, you are first out of the gate. Folks, stick with us. You are with Battle Line, Main Street Radio Network. I'm Alan Nathan. Also on board as well, still with us, Robert Weiner, Democratic strategist, columnist, former communications director for Clinton drug czar General Barry McCaffrey, former chief of staff for the House Committee on Aging, former communications director for both Congressman Rangel and who else? Conyers of New York and Michigan, respectively. He also worked with Claude Pepper, Mayor Lindsay. You were actually shuffling some papers for Truman, aren't you? How far do you go back, Bob? I mean, you've been around a long, long time. I'm not kidding about Claude Pepper, though, right? You worked with Claude Pepper.
I was chief of staff of the House Aging Committee, and we brought in Colonel Sanders to abolish successfully mandatory retirement. That is a true statement.
People should know that Bob did start in this business very, very young. Actually, I think
true.
you were an integer when you began.
Almost true.
Anyway, Amy, no, I promised Amy. Amy, first out of the gate to you, we're talking about this tug of war. Now, again, it does look as if they're ready for an agreement to keep the government running till September of next year. That's cool, fine. But they're still hung up with the payroll extension, the payroll tax cut extension. And essentially, the GOP, they want to pay for it by freezing government worker pay for 3 years, cut the government workforce by 10% through attrition. You know, people retire, they go, just don't replace them. And also, you know, in short, not replacing those leaving or retiring, okay? And using a means test for limiting the benefits going to millionaires and billionaires for those who do get benefits. Now, time is not a luxury on this. So in your estimation, where are we likely to find ourselves before the end of December as relates to this? Do you see that deal going through, by the way? Will the Republicans successfully be able to make an extension of the tax cut, the payroll tax cut, to make its extension contingent upon the go-ahead on the Keystone Pipeline? Do you see the Republicans being able to keep those successfully linked? What say you, Amy Ridenhour?
Well, it's possible because the Democratic labor unions, not all of them, but quite a few of the major ones, actually want the Keystone Pipeline. But Obama doesn't want to make a decision on it before the election because the environmentalists don't like it. What I think will probably happen is there will be a PR battle between the two sides, not so much over the Keystone Pipeline, which I think most people aren't really opposed to, but over the payroll tax cut itself. There's not been a whole lot of information about this out there, even though we've had it for a while. And one of the statistics I think that will get out there is that the payroll tax cut actually benefits more than 50% of the actual benefit of that tax goes to the most affluent 20% of Americans. And that's because people who are affluent have higher salaries, and they are also more likely to be in dual-earner homes. So 50%, actually it's more than 50% of this tax cut is going to the top 20% of wage earners. That's not the sort of statistic that the Democrats really want to hang their hats on. particularly.
But is it one that they have to worry about being confronted by very often? Bob Weiner, maybe that's the Democrats' take on this, even though what Amy pointed out quite correctly, that in fact the tax cut for which Obama is championing so passionately is one that disproportionately favors the wealthy. Despite that fact, I don't see the press letting that reality see the light of day very, very often. Your take on this, Bob Weiner?
My take is that they are coming and scraping for any little shred of information they can to oppose this because it's Obama's tax cut, and the Republicans only want ones they get credit for. That's what generated the problem on this from the beginning. I do see, however, something.
Well, that lets you dodge the differences. That lets you dodge the differences.
There is a compromise point, which you mentioned, which is the means test. If the Republicans are serious about a means test on this, that could be a way of compromise that the Democrats could also support.
I don't understand why the Democrats are so against removing expenditures in other areas as a way to pay for it. This is sad because I remember this happening last year, too. There was some of this going on, too, last year, but this was about unemployment. You had a lot of non-lefties out there saying, look, we want to extend it, too. We just want to do it in a way that doesn't add to the debt. So isn't there something else from which we can take it? Bob, what's wrong with that dynamic? I want to know, why is that so wrong? We have duplicative legislation. We have duplicative expenditures. We have duplicative bureaus and agencies doing the same jobs that multitudes of others are doing. We can cut from here without really destabilizing our nation. Now, granted, some federal workers may have to say bye-bye, but in the final analysis, when you have to have fiscal triage, somebody has to kiss the day goodbye in order for others to go on. Why not have those who have to kiss the day goodbye be folks filling positions that we really don't have to have filled for the running of the government, Bob Weiner? Why not?
Alan, I know you like what Bill Clinton did, and I do too, and I think we have an agreement on a lot of what he did. You have got to read his book, Back to Work. It is amazing. I'm in the middle of it now. I've read the first few chapters, and he points out that the anti-government crowd just has been compulsive for 30 years to cut anything to do with government. Whereas
you're not anti-government, you're anti-bad government. No, there's a difference. No, we're not anti-government, we're anti-bad government. What makes you think that the taxpayer who provides, what makes you think that the taxpayer who provides the salaries for these government workers should not have a say in whether or not they continue working or what kind of salaries they get? We're the ones paying them.
I was one of them for 22 years, are anything but dedicated good people. 99.99% of them are people that are of you and me and have put their lives on the line.
Wait, Amy Ridenhour to you. Amy Ridenhour to you, because Bob is only capable of thinking all or nothing. There's no degreed thinking in this man's mindset.
But there's such a bias.
My view is this. If the bad should not stain the good, nor should the good shield the bad. We have in poll after poll after poll, Amy Ridenhour, factually telling it now, the greatest amount of disgust Americans have when it comes to government workers or all the civilians. The military, of course, get thumbs up.
Because they didn't bother to apply for a government job because they didn't want to. That doesn't mean everybody else is bad.
Oh, good grief.
No. You missed my statement, apparently. I just said to you, if you were listening, just as the bad should not stain the good, nor should the good be allowed to shield the bad. Amy Ridenhour, we should have severability here. We should be able to talk about what jobs make sense to be cut from the feds without always having to do backflips explaining, oh, this doesn't mean that everybody who works for the government is bad people. Amy Ridenhour.
Exactly. This has nothing to do with people being good or bad. The statistics show, and yes, there are variations, and it doesn't apply to the military, that people in the public sector over time make more money than people in the private sector. So for them to have a pay freeze makes perfect sense, and to not replace retiring people isn't painful. The whole point of this tax cut supposedly is to create jobs. Creating jobs by not killing any jobs seems like a win-win situation. Nobody's against government employees. And I'd like to make a final point about Bill Clinton's book, which I have not read, and God help me, I hope I never do. And this is it.
Don't put your head in the sand. Read the facts.
Excuse me, Bob.
Yeah.
Anybody who's complaining...
I read your stuff. I read the Republican work.
Bob.
I'm not a Republican. I'm not here as a Republican.
Okay.
Bob, go ahead. Amy, go ahead. Continue.
For Clinton to complain that conservatives have opposed big government for 30 years is ignoring the elephant, alas, Democrat in the room, which is that government has increased steadily for 30 years. We are losing the growth of government battle. That's why we continue to complain about it.
Okay,
and not only that, Bill Clinton,
and
all you have to do is check Al Gore. You will find You're just saying what I'm going to say. He actually decreased it.
So
that means that if others wish to render more efficient our government in the cost benefit ratio department, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with beginning to let go of those who are more of a drag on our fiscal budget than they are a benefit. We can't let government jobs just be created thinking that's somehow going to solve our economy. It just is. Government jobs are fiscally regressive because they always take more dollars out of the Treasury than they pay back in taxes. Bob Weiner, last word. Is that such a bad observation?
No, I think you have a very valid point, and I really rail against people who just de facto have these myths about government jobs and the fact of how government is increased when in fact a lot of people work to decrease the size.
But
it's increased a lot from Clinton's day, even though it went down in Clinton's day.
The Republicans are